guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new, welcome to my channel. My name is Shelby, and if you are new here, hello. Avery is in her crib somewhat sleeping right now, so I figured I would try to film this video. I may have to get up and get her. Bella, can you come sit? Sit. Lay down. Good girl. Okay. Bella's also in here. She may be whiny. I may have to kick her out as well, but we'll see how far we can get with these videos because I really want to get these up for you guys. So I'm gonna film 2 videos. So if you see me in the same spot in the same outfit, that is why. But yeah, so today's video is gonna be just about like our experience with the NICU. Some people like get really freaked out and worried when it comes to their baby staying in the NICU, and just like, I don't know, I just thought I would share our experience with it, being first-time parents and having our baby go to the NICU for a week. So I don't really know where this is gonna go, but I'm just gonna kind of see where this goes because I didn't make notes. I was gonna make notes, but I decided not to. So anyways, Avery was born, and she was in the room with us. I got to breastfeed her. So we had her for about an hour, and they checked her blood sugar like when she first came out. Then they gave her to me, and we like held her, did skin to skin, tried to start breastfeeding, all the things. And then after about an hour of that, and it could have been more than an hour, that, you know, time is just not a thing whenever you're having a baby and everything. So I just think within like an hour, I don't think we had her for more than an hour, and they checked her sugars and were monitoring them, and they got super low. So what happens with a type 1 diabetic having a baby is, I'm gonna have to get her out of here. Okay, so when a type 1 diabetic is having a child, when they're in the womb and there's the placenta and all of that, the baby is getting a lot more glucose, so sugar. They're getting a lot more sugar, and their pancreas is really having to work to produce the insulin to handle all of the sugar that they're getting from the mother. So when they come out and the cord is cut, they're no longer getting all of that sugar, but their pancreas has already produced so much insulin, so it bottoms the baby out. So their body has to learn to regulate back to a normal amount of glucose versus the extra amount of glucose that she was getting in the womb. So sometimes that can take days, weeks, months, however long. And so it requires a NICU stay. So 90% sure that all of my children will have to go through this, and that's perfectly fine. It's just part of the process. But that's basically what happened. So within the hour, her blood sugar wasn't reading on the meter because it was so low, so they had to take her to the NICU. They let Dwight go with her to the NICU while they got her like admitted in there, situated, all hooked up to everything and all of that. For him, that was a little traumatic. Obviously, being a first-time dad and not really paying attention throughout the whole pregnancy, when I'm preparing myself for a NICU stay and what all that involves, when they started giving her IVs and all that stuff, I think he got a little freaked out. But then it became very like second nature. So I got taken care of, ate all the things while she went to the NICU, and then they started her feeding rotation. So her feeding rotation was 3, 6, 9, 12, and then again 3, 6, 9, 12. So that was the whole time. So she was born on Monday and she came home on a Sunday. So she was pretty much there almost a full week, and I was in the hospital until Thursday. Yeah, so I was in the hospital until Thursday. They let me stay extra night because my blood pressure had spiked a little bit, and I struggled with high blood pressure right before having her, and after is when it was really all over the place and high. So when my blood pressure spiked again, they were like, we'll just let you stay one more night and monitor you, especially since she is in the NICU. So every feeding, we went to the NICU. Now, you can go to the NICU as much as you want to. Like, you can go and sit in there throughout the whole time if you wanted to. We just chose to go at her feedings. Sometimes we would stay through the next feeding, just depending on what was going on. But overall, it was not as scary as like I thought it was gonna be. I will say that there are 2 different kinds of nurses that you're going to deal with in the NICU. Hopefully you don't have to, but more than likely you're going to deal with both. So the first one is super sweet. They understand like that it's kind of scary having your baby in the NICU. They're gentle. They let you kind of do things and help because, you know, it is your, you know, like for us, we are first time parents and like we want to change her diapers and we want to like do that, you know, like we want to be able to do things. But in reality, if you can't, you can't. And there's some babies that come out and have to be put on so much to be helped that they can't have too much going on. Luckily for us, thankfully, she was just, her blood sugars was like the biggest issue, so she didn't have to be on oxygen or feeding tubes or anything like that. So she just had an IV and then the little monitoring things that did her heart rate and blood pressure and all of those things. So our NICU stay was overall really good. I really think we had a good experience with it. So you're going to get those nurses. So you're going to get the nurse that's like super sweet and super like helpful to you and to the baby, and just very attentive and very informative and all of those kind of things, which is amazing. There was one nurse that we absolutely loved, and she was so great. Now the first few days in the NICU we understood like, you know, she needs to just be like monitored very closely and whatnot, but then like as we kept going on, we got a nurse again that I loved, and we had her several of the days, and she would let us change her diapers, she would let us check her temperature, she was just really letting us be involved, and I really liked that. And then she also was very like mindful. She listened to what we were asking, because I will say there's the other nurses who are just like, I'm here to do my job, you know, they're like really rough with the babies, which not in a bad way rough, but just kind of like doing their job and like, this is just what this is what I'm supposed to do, like, you know, blah blah blah. They don't really want to, like, they don't care, not that they don't care, but I don't know how to explain it. They're just very like strong-minded in that this is my job, this is what I'm here to do, and I'm gonna do it, and that's it. And that was a really hard thing to deal with, because they had her hospital bands on her ankle, and she is always flexing her feet, and so on her one of her ankles, when she was doing that, the hospital band was cutting her foot, legit cutting her foot, like bleeding and everything. And so like we asked, you know, can we loosen this, like what can we do about it? And they're like, oh, it's fine, you know, once her swelling goes down, it's fine, or whatever. Well, it ended up not being fine, and we had to have ointment put on it, and we were sent home to continue putting the ointment on it, because even after the full week, it just still wasn't healed. It was a pretty good little cut on her foot, and so that was really frustrating, because that was the nurse, that was like the first day that she was in the NICU, and then the next day we said something again, and they were like, they just brushed it off of us. But then that third day is when we had the nurse that I absolutely loved, and when we got in there that morning, she had already taken it off, put a new one on the other one, kept it super loose, and ordered the ointment for that cut. And I'm like, why couldn't they have done that? Or why couldn't they have just taken it off and switched it like she did to prevent it from happening? So it's just really frustrating that little things like that you ask, they just kind of like brush it off like it's no big deal, but in reality it is a big deal. Like, this is my newborn baby, like I don't want her to have this huge cut on her foot, like it's not necessary. So that was really frustrating, and you're gonna get those nurses, and you just kind of have to tell them, like, No, it's something super simple. Just do what I ask you to do, please. And same with her ear. So when she came out, her ear was folded. So it kept folding, and they were putting the hats on her and things like that. And they just, you know, like, obviously, no, the cartilage is not produced. I don't know the right word off the top of my head, but it's not ready, you know, it's not developed. There you go, that's the word. It's not developed yet. So, like, yeah, it'll go back to normal. But how hard is it to just be mindful when you're putting the hat on to flatten her ear out? Like, it's literally the smallest thing. But one of the nurses flipped out on me and my mom when we asked her to just be mindful of her ear. And so, of course, my mom snapped back and was like, look, I know that this is your job and whatnot, and you don't have like a care for the NICU, but this isn't our first rodeo with the NICU, and we know that it's something simple, and you can just be mindful of it like we asked you to. So you're gonna get those kind of nurses, unfortunately, but 8 out of the 10 nurses, I don't really know how many, but just say 8 out of the 10 nurses were fantastic, super helpful with me, and then also with her, and just letting us be involved and feeding. And like, they have a time period that they say you're not allowed to come because they're like switching shifts and whatnot, and we had several nurses that let us stay during that, just because that actually one of her feedings, her 6 o'clock feeding, was always that 6 to 7 was always the hour you're not supposed to be there, but they would let us because we wanted to be there to feed her if we were there. So like, once we went home, we didn't go back for the 6 o'clock. We just kind of went when we could. But that was the other thing. They were really helpful when it came to like us going home. And like me, I wanted to stay. So like, I would stay while I was still in the hospital. I would go at like the 9 o'clock feeding and stay till the 12. Like, I just didn't want to leave her, and that's like fine. And so she did get jaundice at one point, and well, she was jaundiced the whole time, but they ended up doing the phototherapy, and with that she could only be out of her little thing for 30 minutes. And so it was literally go in, feed her, and then put her back in, because she had to be on the phototherapy for, I think she was on it for like 2 days. So that was kind of hard because you couldn't sit there and hold her or anything like that. But for all the other times before she was doing phototherapy and after, like, we could literally hold her the whole 3 hours, if for an hour, however long we wanted to. We could sit and talk to her, play with her, all the things, unless they needed to come and like do a test or check her blood sugar or things that we couldn't help with. But yeah, so that was really helpful. And then they let us bring in stuff for her. And they decorated her little thing, and that was really sweet. And then, yeah, and so then leaving her there and me going home was probably one of the hardest things. Looking back now, it really wasn't a big deal because she was where she needed to be, and she was well taken care of, and I needed to come home and be taken care of myself. So it was kind of like worked out that she stayed while I came home and started getting myself better. If you haven't watched my previous, let me grab her. So if you didn't watch my like postpartum update, my 3-week postpartum update, definitely go back and watch that, and you'll see like what I struggled with after giving birth. But so I just needed to come home, and like my mom had to come over. She came in like the middle of the night because I just couldn't do it on my own, and Dwight was sleeping and he didn't know how to help. So it was one of those things that it was a good thing that she wasn't with us, because I mean, we obviously could have done it, but it was just so stressful that I'm really glad that she was at the hospital and I was able to get that taken care of before she came home. But yeah, so leaving her, again, it was hard, and in the moment I was bawling my eyes out, and I was so terrified of leaving her, and I just wanted to bring her home and yada yada. But I was only home for 2 nights, because then they and we just went, like, we got up and was there by lunchtime, so we did her 12 o'clock and 3 o'clock feedings, and one day we stayed till 6, and then the other day we just ended up coming back home, because she is well taken care of, and she's getting rest, and we were getting rest, and it was just, it worked out in the end, and it will for you guys too if you're in this situation. So I know in the moment you're like so overwhelmed with everything, and your hormones are going crazy, and you're just emotional and all of that, but it's okay. Like, everyone in the NICU is so great, and then they have their own phone line, so like I could call at any time I wanted to, and I was just like, hey, this is Avery's mom, and they have a little code that you set up while you're at the hospital, so you just give them your code and they just tell you whatever you want to know. So you can call and check in. I would call at like 3 o'clock in the morning and check on her and stuff like that. So that was super beneficial to being home without her, is that I could call anytime I wanted to and check on her. And so yeah, I don't know, like, if you have specific questions about the NICU, definitely leave them in the comments, because I don't really know like what all to tell you guys. But because we didn't have like a very traumatic NICU stay, it was literally just getting her blood sugars back up, and she did do the 2 days of phototherapy for her jaundice. And then when they were prepping her, she came completely off her IV, and so they said she had to be off of it for 24 hours and her blood sugars stay where they're supposed to, which was like, I think, above 60, and then she could come home. So we had to go in, so she went home on a Sunday, so on Saturday we went in probably around 3 o'clock, I think, and we did her, no, it was 12 o'clock. I think we went at 12 o'clock. And so we had to do a car seat test, so she had to be in her car seat they do it for what your car ride home is. So it was an hour ride home for us, so she had to be in her car seat for an hour without getting stressed out and panicked and all of that test. So it's kind of like a car seat stress test, just to see how they do, because they are so little and have gone through a lot, so you want to make sure that they're not gonna like completely freak out and all of that. So we had to do that, and then we had to do a CPR little class thing and a choking class. And what else did we have to do? I think that was it. I think those 3 things are what we had to do. She obviously had to pass her hearing test and things like that. And then we got to room in. So they give you like a complimentary room, and they give you dinner. They gave me dinner and lunch to go with that. Or dinner and breakfast. Yeah, they gave me dinner and breakfast to go with that. And so once she completed all of her car seat testing and all of that stuff, then they brought her into a room, and we got to stay the night and monitor how she did throughout the rest of the night. And then we went home on Sunday. So that was really nice, because I didn't know that we were going to get to do that. Like, I didn't know that was going to be something we got to do with the complimentary room and getting to keep her like in the hospital overnight in case like we needed help and stuff. So I really like thought that was really awesome, and hopefully everywhere does that. I'm not 100% sure if all hospitals do that or not, but I really liked that. And then yeah, it was just easy discharge and come home. She had to have some ultrasounds and stuff before we came home because of her kidney issue I've talked about before. I'll do an update on that in my next video. And so yeah, that's pretty much like our NICU stay. Like I said, if you have any more like specific questions, just leave them in the comments below and I'll be happy to answer them. I just kind of wanted to tell our story. Once you got used to the idea of them being in the NICU, it was just kind of like, this is our schedule, this is our routine, this is what we do. Coming back and forth to the hospital is just kind of like one of those things. This is just what we do, you know, and everyone is super supportive and helpful. There is a whole routine to going into the NICU. So like when there's a doorbell on the NICU, so like you have to be let in. And you still had to wear like your hospital bracelet so that they knew like that was definitely your baby and, you know, you're not some creeper or something. But you ring the doorbell, somebody comes and lets you in, and then you have to wear the little gowns and all that, and then do like this whole hand washing routine and whatnot. So they keep it very clean, very safe, and very nice and peaceful. It really wasn't crazy in there. Like the first couple days there was a lot of babies in the NICU, but like when we left we were like one of 2 or 3. Like there might have been 3 in the room that we were in. So I don't know, I guess there's different levels to the NICU obviously and stuff like that. So anyways, it was just super nice. I really am happy with our experience, and know like I definitely want to stick to that hospital when we have our next baby, if and when we have our next baby, because only God knows if that's gonna happen, since he provided this one, we'll just wait for him to provide the next one. But yeah, anyways, that is our NICU story. Like I said, I really enjoyed our NICU experience. It was better than I would have expected it to be, so really happy with that. And yeah, so again, if you have any questions, feel free to leave them down below. But other than that, thank you guys so much for watching this video. Give it a thumbs up if you haven't already. Subscribe if you're new. And I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.